You express the values of cooperation and community very well. Many people in this country, in the state, in the world don't share those values. They feel that if people just work hard enough on their own, they will succeed, and if you don't succeed, it's because you're not worthy. How do you try to reach the people who don't have strong community values?
You know, I've always practicing full engagement. And that's what I'm talking about culturally as well, in terms of the paradigm shift from your politicians and your leaders. You know, they have to be able to step out of their traditional mold, which is, you know, wanting accolades and wanting political support for taking votes, but really not judging their performance by the long-term outcomes. And we've had some very big structural problems in the economy for years now that hit well before the recession. The growing gap in wealth was already developing well before the mortgage abuse and the poorly packaged investments on Wall Street. But where were the Democrats raising that as an issue? There are other issues where, if you look at wages, poor labor has been trying to fight the fight, reframing their fight, reframing the issue, believing in candidates, and yet you look at the productivity of labor and wages, and those were already going out of whack for a little while. So there were structural problems with the economy before the recession hit. Now Americans are frustrated. So I think that you have to look to leaders that have on-the-ground solutions and on-the-ground accountability to their constituents, much deeper than traditional constituent services, much deeper than just winning elections. And you know, I would be willing as a leader to really step out of that mold and get more entities engaged. For instance, it's my belief as auditor, and I would take this to Washington, that if there are public dollars running through a public institution, they have to be much more accountable than their own just very central mission. So if you're the president of a university, I'm glad you're graduating students. I'm glad you're spending that money. But if we have erratic poverty and demand, and I ask you to get more engaged in economic opportunities, those leaders of those public institutions should be thinking about long-term strategies and sustainability, like in energy, like in job creation, like keeping our students in New Mexico and not having them forced to move to California and Florida and other states like Texas. So my approach just inherently as the state auditor, because I only had 25 employees, was I had to go to Deming and train school board members to protect their own resources. I had to go to the Navajo Nation and work with the Inspector General at the federal level to get them engaged on some of the issues that were happening in Shiprock Public Schools. So the leveraging, how do you convince leaders that are somewhat dogmatic and self-interested or closed-minded? You need U.S. senators to give them a call, first of all, and you need U.S. senators to demand greater outcomes and greater accountability. For instance, the solar example that I gave. So we need to set a higher standard in New Mexico for a greater economy, a more fair economy, and it starts by having leaders speak out, but then it also starts by setting very clear benchmarks for success. I think